There are millions of dollars worth of gold in the sands of Lake Superior. But why is it there? How did it get there? And how do we get it out? That's what we're going to explore today. Now there might be millions of dollars worth of gold in the sands, but there's billions of tons of sand. So there's not a lot of it. It's disseminated all over. But if we look in the right spot, we can find some. Now we're not looking for this kind of sand. We're looking for this kind of sand, black sand. Now this just happens to be a spot where the wave action is such that it's enough energy to strip away the light blonde sand, but not enough to rip away the heavy black sand. Now, not all black sand has gold, but I tested this and found some good specks. Let me show you. Little specks like that. That's what we're looking for. So now that I located a deposit with some fair number of specks, I'm going to start mining. It's like rings on a tree. I don't know if that's different storms or whatnot, but different layers of black sand. Pretty cool. It's like a tiger. Now, a lot of people speak highly of these banjo pans. I'm not super experienced with them, but now's a good time to try. This beach sand does seem to go off it better than the creek sand when I tried it. We'll see if I'm catching any gold. All right, there's a portion of that bucket anyway. I just want to see if I'm catching anything. So I slide out the little mat. Clean that off in my pan. We'll make sure the whole thing is cleared. It seems to be working. So that was just a few scoops through that banjo pan, and it's catching all kinds of specks of gold. So I didn't particularly like this using it in the creek, but in the beach sand, it does seem to chew through that sand pretty well, and it's catching the gold. So I say it's a winner for on the beach. Another method I've tried that seems to work fairly well is bucket swirling. So I'm going to try that. In the bucket, there's a lot of blonde sand mixed in there, but if you swirl it around, that heavy sand goes to the bottom, the blonde sand kind of gets turbulent, and the water gets turbulent and kicks that lighter sand out. So just by swirling the bucket, it's kind of a way to concentrate some of it. There's blonde sand in there, but it sure kicked a lot of it out. So now that's concentrated a little bit more, and then I'll go back to panning. It's like a big dumb dope. I forgot to bring bug dope, and the gnats are pretty bad. I did, however, bring my bug shirt. I think they're bad enough that I might just use it.
Seriously, you don't have to wear that.
I don't know why there has to be so many things that want to bite you and poke you. Well, I know why, but I don't like it. When Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit, the Bible says God made thorns and thistles. I think he also made mosquitoes and ticks. It's a punishment. Just think, if they didn't eat that fruit, we'd be able to pan gold on the beach without getting bug bit.
Suddenly everybody's a theology scholar.
So there's one bucket down, and all my tailings are in my bin here. So I'm just gonna take a quick check to see how much we're losing. I know we're not catching all the gold, I know that, and we're not going to. But we have to determine a rate of acceptable losses. I'm gonna go through it again and see how much I'm losing. If I'm losing too much, maybe I need to slow down or speed up. I'm still learning the equipment, so I'm not really sure how fast to run material or whatnot. So this is just a way for me to get a better understanding of the equipment I'm using. It'd be better for me to practice on a bag of pay dirt so I know exactly how much there is and how much of that I'm capturing, but I didn't do that. So here I am, learning on the fly, in the field, fighting the gnats. All right, so there's a few scoops of material. I should be able to tell if my losses are acceptable or not. If they're not, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do about it. And I am losing quite a few pieces, so I would call that not acceptable losses. I need to refine something to capture more gold or just run it twice. This black sand is so hard to get the gold out. It's very fine, and the density of the gold and the sand isn't big enough to really separate it easily. So I don't care what system you use, you're gonna have gold you miss. But I'd like to catch a little bit more than that. Maybe we'll just run it twice. So running it through a second time, there are still specks there, but definitely not as many. So at this point, I think I'm gonna call it acceptable losses. I can't chase every speck because there's a whole lot more that I need to get. So I'll get the easy specks and leave the finer stuff for someone else to get. I'm gonna just do like quarter buckets. Swirl it down and pan that. There's that quarter bucket all panned down. All kinds of specks along the edge. And I'm sure there's plenty more in the black sand. I'll run another bucket.
You are so weird.
Oh my gosh, this black sand is so heavy. A guy sent me these bucket handles from Tech Products. He said you gotta try them, and holy cow, they make a big difference. These plastic ones always break, but this rubber thing is a lot more comfortable and it's just way better. I'll post a link to all these products. I'm sure glad I have this thing. I'll never find $1 million worth of gold doing this, but I have $1 million worth of fun doing it, that's for sure. I think that's worth something. So I've taken several buckets out of this spot and I'm pretty happy with what I've seen, but I kind of like to explore and see other areas. So before it gets too dark, I'm gonna move down the beach and see what else I can find. It's such a long drive for me, I'm gonna spend the night and start first thing in the morning, and I wanna make sure I'm on the best spot. Do I look like a Sith? Look at this. There's like some water coming from uphill. It's flowing underground and it's eroding away the sand. It's kind of collapsing in there, and there's all these little braided streams of black sand. I wonder if there's gold in that. I don't see any gold, but it looks cool. So I found a layer right here. It's not super thick and super black, but when I tested it, there's pretty good numbers of gold. So as long as we got daylight, I'm gonna run another bucket right here. And then I'll see where I wanna pick it up in the morning. So it's the butt crack of dawn, everything's nice and calm, and I'm gonna pick up right where we left off. The gnats are already out and ready for breakfast too.
Am I in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come?
Oh, this is too scary. I don't think I want to see any more.
But this morning while the lake is calm, I got some other tools I want to test. I'm gonna pull out our gold claw and give that a test on the beach sand. And then a friend of mine, Dean, gave me this turbo pan to try. You kind of need some bigger water there, so I'm gonna use that out in the lake and see how that works on the beach sand. Now this turbo pan is kind of designed to just kind of spin, and it spins the gold to the center. So all these riffles there, they kind of spiral into the center, and there's a dish right there. So as I move the material, everything sinks to the bottom. It's heavy, and then those spirals force everything to go to the center. That's the theory anyway. I wouldn't be able to do this in the big waves, that's for sure. I think you're supposed to kind of be able to treat it like a botella pan. And then there's a set of riffles there. You can pan it just like you otherwise would with a pan. So that took out most of all that blonde sand. There's our concentrate. Let's check it out. It caught a few specks. So the turbo pan does catch gold. All right, now let's try the gold claw. Definitely not gonna fill it all the way up, but that looks good. Now this black sand is so dense, the gold doesn't really go through it to the bottom. Kind of floats and skates on top of it, but I'm hoping these fins kind of scoop it out maybe. I don't know. I think that's all the farther I'm gonna go. Still a fair bit of blonde sand in there. Let's see if we concentrated some gold. Well, there's a few specks. One thing I do not like about this gold claw is it is just very, very difficult to kind of clean it out and see what you got with this shape. I might get used to it after a while, but right now I don't like it. So the gold claw does catch gold as well. There's specks scattered throughout there. Now, I'd say for the beach sand, just shaking it back and forth really isn't enough to stratify it and separate the gold. I think it takes more of a push-pull motion, I don't know. But for now, I'm not really a fan. But it does catch some gold. I don't think it catches it better than anything else, but I like to test new things. What do you guys think? Yeah, they're on the same page. So far I'd say either just a regular pan or the banjo pan is what I'm gonna stick with for mining. So let's keep mining. Strongest force on earth is two buckets stuck together.
I knew you could do it.
So I think I'm just gonna shovel right from the black sand into my banjo pan. Just like that. Gosh, I'm glad I got this bug net. It's kind of irritating, but a lot less irritating than the gnats. I still think I look like a Sith. You know, I just watched those movies for the first time ever last week. The episode 1 and episode 2, all those. I didn't think they were very good. Sorry to any of you fans out there. They used to allow people to come down here with sluice boxes, and they would just have a recirculating system in a tub like this. It doesn't do any damage to the beach. It's perfectly fine. Really no different than doing this at all. Just a little more efficient. But from what I understand, there are some people making a real big mess of the beach, digging up huge portions, leaving big holes, just making a mess.
That's the rumor.
That's hearsay, I guess.
That's why I always tell people, fill your holes, leave no trace, because if you make a big mess, people are going to take away your rights like they did here. Hopefully they reinstate them. But for now, we can still come and pan. And I'm still gonna leave no trace, because I don't want them to take away the right to pan either. Now I'm trying to maximize efficiency here. So once I go through one pan, I got a bucket right here, and I just clean it on out, and then go again. Super efficient. Every pan adds specks to the pile. Now before the waves build up too much this morning, I want to take a look around and take advantage of this crystal clear water. It is just tap water clear. You can look down and see all kinds of cool rocks. And what I'm looking for is pieces of quartz like this. I'll collect pieces like this and then crush them up and see what I can pan out of it. I've never found much, but I have fun doing it. And right off a couple 100 miles that way is Ontario. And that's where the gold came from. There's hard rock gold mines up there where they target the quartz veins. And when the glaciers scraped over the gold fields, they picked up gold and pieces of quartz and all kinds of cool rocks and dropped them here on the beach in the UP. Now, I don't know too much about the geology of Ontario, but I can tell you there's a lot of metamorphic rocks, a lot of granite, some schist. That breaks up a lot more in the glaciers, so you don't find that as often, but there's still plenty of schist, along with the veins of quartz. So with all that metamorphic rock, that tells me that there was mountain building up there. Subduction, igneous intrusions, regional metamorphism, and a lot of times that's where you get some pretty good gold deposits. So it all makes sense. And the rocks are just beautiful. All right, back to work. I know what I look like. That creepy woman from Dune. That was a terrible movie too. So many gnats. So I just dug a small trench here just because I was curious on what's underneath. And there's a whole pile of black sand, thick bands of black sand, just underneath the blonde sand. It looks really good, but let's test it and see if it is. There's some pretty good pieces. So all those pieces and that little handful of sand, I'm no wizard at finding this beach gold, but to me, that looks pretty good. So in just this little area, there's enough sand to keep me busy all day. And that's my plan. Ouch. Almost sat my finger off. And we're ready to go again. So I've been checking my tailings, and I'm still losing gold on every run. But the best I can do is just get the most gold I can get. I'm not gonna get every speck. But I think we're gonna have a pretty good clean out by the time we're done with this. Every now and then I need to look at some gold. So I'm gonna clean this up. Also need to make sure I'm still shoveling gold. Yep, every scoop adds some more specks of gold. So I'm trying multiple methods here. I'll go between the banjo pan and my regular pan. With the banjo pan, it's pretty easy to kind of move the material through, but with that speed, I do lose material. With the regular pan, I'm able to slow it down, and I get to this point where there's no more blonde sand coming up, it's just pure black sand. And there's a lot more material being held, but I know all the gold is in there. So I can concentrate it, and I see good pieces of gold in there. I just have a lot more material. So it's kind of a question of speed versus precision. If you spend too much time dinking around trying to get every piece, you're not gonna get much of anything. And if you're too sloppy, you're not gonna take much home. So which is better? I don't know. I just know both ways capture gold, and that's why I'm here. Now I've gone up and down the beach along Wisconsin quite a few times looking for gold in the black sand. There's plenty of black sand there, but I haven't found more than one speck. So why is there gold here in the UP but not in Wisconsin? Well, I don't really know. It would make sense where black sand accumulates, that gold would accumulate, but even here there's not always gold in the black sand. But I think the reason is it's just what the glaciers went over. There's not gold fields everywhere, and if you go upstream from where the glaciers were traveling, there's not always going to be a gold deposit that it went over. Well, here in the UP, maybe upstream was better gold fields in Ontario. And upstream from Wisconsin, it just wasn't as good. That's what I'm thinking the case is, but I don't really know. I'm just thankful there's gold somewhere, even if I got to drive 6 hours to get it. Look what I brought for lunch.
Nuts!
I'm still mixing it up between the banjo and the regular pan, just to kind of have something different going on. Plus, it's easier to get a sneak peek of the gold in the pan. Still gold there, although not a lot of specks. Wonder if the gold-bearing string pinched out. Maybe the gold-bearing string pinched out.
You already said that.
Yeah.
So I've been doing some testing, and there's still gold throughout all this black sand, but it seems to be a little bit better heading up this way. So I'm gonna start moving a little bit under this area right here. There wasn't much in the top, so I'm gonna consider that overburden and get to this really thick dark layer down here. That was the best I tested. Thankfully, the sun and the wind seem to be driving the gnats away, so I think I can lose this. But I don't think I would have made it without this, though. That was a lifesaver. Look at that giant piece of beach gold I just found. Holy cow. I can't feel it, but gosh, that's a nice piece. And that's probably 7 or 8 cents worth of gold right there. It's free. It just comes right out of the ground. It's incredible. It's amazing. So, I've reached a verdict. Been using the banjo pan all day, and I'm getting better at it. And I think it's the winner. I see why people use this a lot on the beach. It does work well in this beach sand. I didn't like it in the creek, but I do prefer it to panning here on the beach. I guess that's why you have more than one tool for the job. I still like the pan, but this seems to be a little bit better. Ooh, I can see a piece of gold in the mat. Let's take a walk and look for more quartz. So I found a number of other quartz pieces. Now most of them are pure white quartz and doesn't look like there's anything in it, but I don't know. There's gonna be hundreds and thousands of different quartz veins that the glaciers picked up. So one of them might be gold bearing. This one is kind of a mixed up piece. It's got a lot of pieces of breccia in there. Looks like some of the wall rock is still on the quartz vein there. And I don't see anything inside it, but we'll crunch it up and future me will know. Future you will know. Now this is a really cool one. This is a quartz vein, but you can see it's all squiggly. How'd it get like that? Well, here's an example of a quartz vein. It's all straight. That's typically how rock will fracture. It'll fracture in straight lines. And at one time, this one was straight too. The rock fractured, it was infilled with quartz, and then it was metamorphosed some more. All the tectonic stresses, pressures, they squeezed the rock, moved it about, and reshaped that quartz. I know the quartz didn't come in after the fact because if it would have been open, it would have been squished and closed up. So cross-cutting relations, the rock was formed, the rock was fractured, the quartz infilled, and then metamorphosed. That's a keeper. Yeah, it's getting to be about that time. I think I'm gonna pan out a few more scoops and then clean up and make the long drive back home. Okay, we're back at headquarters and we have probably 50 pounds of concentrates. It's the blackest of heavy dirt you'll ever see. And that's just a little bit too much to run through my Flour Gold Wizard cleanup sluice. A little too much to pan out by hand. So what I did is I took my river sluice box and I used Mr. Wizard's smooth water head, and that turns any river sluice into like a a home high banker right there. I'm gonna just run the water through here and concentrate my concentrates a little bit more. First scoop, I'm already seeing specks of gold in there. Okay, so all that massive amount of black sand has run through here, but I don't think my pump is big enough to quite work the dream mat the way it's supposed to. That's kind of a high flow mat. And I did see a number of specks get by. So I'm gonna end up running all of this again. And I have the rest of my low V mat. That's what I originally had when I built this sluice, but I didn't think it caught the gold very well. Turns out it catches gold better than I thought. So I'm gonna replace the dream mat with this and run it all again and see what I missed. Because in the upper section, it's doing a really good job of catching the gold. I can see that. So let's try this. Whoa. I'm seeing more specks of gold caught in here. Now the only reason I'm running the low V is because that's what I got when I first built my sluice, because it's obnoxiously cheap. But the cheapest stuff you can buy, and apparently it works. If they do ever open the beach up to sluicing again, I think I'll definitely try a variation of this V mat. Maybe some low V and high V, mix it up. I don't know. But it chews through the sand pretty well. And there's little specks of gold all throughout that. I see more specks of gold in the second run than I take home some days. So, good deal. This smooth water head is really a slick invention. Really glad I got that. So our concentrates have been concentrated into almost nothing. That's still a bit more than I'd like to pan, so I'm gonna concentrate it one more time in our Flower Gold Wizard cleanup sluice. All right, that does a really good job of cleaning it up, and now I have it down to enough material where I can just pan the final thing out. And it just looks awesome. That took a long time, but look at the gold we got. That is a nice pile of gold. This beach gold is so bright, it's like it's polished. We're gonna go ahead and weigh that up and see what our profits are. .037. So at today's price, that's $3.84. Well, there might be millions of dollars worth of gold in the sands, but we're gonna have to go through a little bit more to get it. People might think it's not worth it to drive so far for so little, but I have a ton of fun getting this stuff. And in my opinion, it's still well worth it. Thank you guys for watching. Come on back for the next one.